So in today's session we will be discussing the theory of failures, various types of theory of failures. We had discussed in our previous session how the theory of failure is important to us as far as designing of a machine part is concerned. So why we are studying this theory of failure, up to which extent theory of failure is helpful to us in designing the machine part. So on the basis of different type of products and different type of failure like shear, compression, strain or tensile failure, so on the basis of these type of different type of bending, torsion, torsional shear, on the basis of these type of failures, I have already discussed in my previous session, I have to make you understand these 5 types of theory of failure, basis upon the different type of failure. First of all is the maximum principal stress theory. This theory is also called as the Rankine theory. This theory is also named as the Rankine theory. Second one is the maximum shear stress theory that we will also be discussing in today's session. So this theory is also known as the Coulomb's theory. So you may be asked in your examination, explain the Rankine theory of failure, or what do you understand by Rankine theory of failure, or how the Rankine theory of failure is helpful in designing the product, or what type of products are designing by taking into consideration the Rankine theory. Similarly, other type of theories also, like you may be asked what is the Coulomb theory of failure, how the Coulomb theory of failure is helpful in designing the product, or what type of products are designed by taking into the consideration of the Coulomb theory of failure. So after that we will be talking about the maximum principal strain theory. These 3 theories will be discussed in our next session. Next theory of failure is the maximum strain energy theory. We have already studied the strain energy, how the strain energy is taken into the consideration while designing the machine part, by taking how the strain energy is stored in a material when a sudden load is applied, or a gradual load is applied, or a impact load is applied, or due to its own weight, or a composite bar or a compound bar, how the strain energy is stored into a material or into a machine part on the application of the load. So up to which extent a material can store the strain energy, and up to which extent it can store the energy safely before failure. So this theory will be talking in that term. That will be discussing in detail later on. And the last theory is the shear strain energy theory. Obviously the name itself is indicating the shear strain, the strain due to the shearing load. That this theory will also be discussing in our next session. So before discussing these theories into detail, how they are helpful in designing and what does these theories say, we will have a very small look at the stress strain diagram, so as to memorize how a material undergoes into the stress when a load is applied to that. For that, I have taken a workpiece. So this is a workpiece. You might have done this experiment in your strength of material 1 at UTM. We will be using a tensile strength, and it will be conducting at UTM, means the Universal Testing Machine. This is the workpiece. It's a mild steel workpiece, and you can see it has the 2 ends, and these 2 ends are kept in the jaws of the UTM. And as far as the middle portion of this, you can say workpiece is concerned, this middle portion has got somewhat, you can say, a narrower area as compared to its ends. Now, let us see how when this workpiece is under the application of the tensile load at UTM. So we will get a graph like this. You can see the graph well. It is some kind of haphazard graph, even though you might have studied this graph in your previous semester in your strength of material 1. So let us see from A to B, it is obeying the Hooke's law. What does the Hooke's law say? Hooke's law says that the stress is directly proportional proportional to strain. Stress is directly proportional to strain, and if you need to remove the proportionality symbol, you will add a proportionality symbol, that is the Young's modulus comes into the picture. So stress over strain is given by the Young's modulus. But basic rule is given by the Hooke's by taking the longitudinal strains into the consideration, and the load applied will be tensile or compressive. The stress induced into the material will be directly proportional to the strain induced into the material. So sigma will be equal to E into the strain. E is your, you can say, the Young's modulus. From A to B, your material is going to follow the Hooke's law, means it is under elastic limit. Hooke's law also says that this law is applicable up to the extent of the elastic limit. The material, until the material follows the elastic limit, this rule will be followed. Otherwise, this rule will not be followed. So we can conclude that from A to B, since it is a straight line, so a elastic limit of the material is maintained, or the material will regain its original shape and size after the removal of the load or the applied force. But as from the point B, B is known as the elastic point. From the point B, if you still go on applying the load onto that, the material will not obey the Hooke's law. Means not obeying the Hooke's law means that the material is out of the range of the elastic limit. It has crossed its elastic limit, means the material will not regain its original shape and size after the removal of the load. So from B to C, this is known as the plastic region. Plastic region means the material will be attaining a permanent deformation into it even after the removal of the load. So from B to C, this is the plastic region, and point C is the uppermost point, and this point is known as the yield point. Yield means you are getting something permanent to you, like yield of a farmer. The farmer is getting that yield after 3 months or 4 months. Similarly, from B to C, you are getting a yield. Here the meaning of yield is the strain or a permanent deformation into the material that you are getting. So from B to C, this is the plastic region, and yield will be in the form of strain. So that is why this point C is known as the yield point, and the stress induced at this point is known as the yield point stress. And the strength of the material, if we need to calculate the strength, at which point the material will start yielding. At that point, that the quality of that material is known as the yield point strength. Means that up to yield point strength you can apply the load. After that the material will deform and it may fail or it will fail. If a material is deformed, it is supposed to be failed or it is considered to be failed. It is no more of your use. So that is why this C point is known as the upper yield point. And from C to D, you can see that even after you are lowering the load, this is the load in the vertical axis. From C to D, even after you are lowering the load, but still you are getting the strain in the x-axis. You can vary the view because after point C, the material has lost its strength. This thing we can conclude or validate it experimentally also. From point C to D, the material is not able to resist the load or loses its strength. So we can view in the graph that from point C to D, the material has lost the strength. Since the material is losing the strength, even we are lowering the applied load, the strain is on. Means the strain is increasing and increasing. That you can view it from the x-axis from here to here. It is still approaching even after we are removing the load. But again, from point D, again due to the change into the microstructure of the material, from point D, the material again regain its strength. Please note my point. From point D to E, the material will again regain its strength, and due to the regaining of the strength, the load applied on the material will go on increasing. That you can very well view it from D to E. The load applied or the stress applied is increasing from D to E due to the material has gained the strength as per the change in the microscopic structure of the material. So this is the point E. This point E is known as the ultimate point or the highest point in the stress strain diagram. Highest point means E is the maximum stress a material can bear. This is the maximum stress a material can bear, because from the graph you can view that from E to F, again material will start losing its strength, and even after you are lowering the load, आपने जो वेट लगाया वो आप कम कर रहे हैं, मान लीजिए आपने 10,000 न्यूटन लगाया था, आप 9,000 न्यूटन कर रहे हैं, 8,000 न्यूटन कर रहे हैं, आप देख रहे हैं फिर भी मटेरियल खींचे चला जाएगा। मींस के इलोंगनेशन उसको फिर भी हो रही है। फ्रॉम E to E, the elongation is on. You can view it like from E to F, elongation is on. E is the ultimate point, F is the breaking point. E to F, elongation is on even after you are lowering the load. You are lowering the forces onto that because the material has lost its strength. And ultimately at point F, the material breaks. The material breaks down. Second point, from E to F, the process of neck formation takes place. Neck, N-E-C-K, neck means गर्दन. यहाँ पे होगा क्या? From this diagram we can understand due to the elongation, this workpiece has changed up to this thing, and this area is also reduced to a very narrower area. And a neck formation is formed. This narrowing of area from here to here. Let it be initial area was 10 mm square. Due to the neck formation, let it be the area becomes only 3 mm square. Due to this neck formation, and ultimately at this point, the material breaks. Which I have shown it with a haphazard line. Now, next point and the last point of this, from E, and let it be the name of this point is G. I have shown it with the dotted line. I have shown what does this line EG indicate? This EG line indicates we are calculating the point stress induced at point G, that is sigma G. What is the significance of that? Sigma G is load divided by neck area. While at point F, sigma F, you can say is load divided by original neck area. Clear? Means that load is same. Let it be the load is 100 Newton. Sigma F will be equal to 100 divided by, this is your 10. And what about sigma G? Sigma G will be equal to 100 divided by 3. So which one is more? Obviously, sigma G is 3 times than that of the approximately, that sigma F and this point. Means in actual condition, if we say in actual or practical condition, the stress induced at the time of breaking at this point was 3 times than that of the theoretical stress induced, that is sigma. So this was the complete summary of the you can say the stress strain diagram. Now we will discuss the maximum principal stress theory. Let us see. The maximum principal stress theory says that the principal stresses are sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3 in different planes like x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So moreover we are also assuming that sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2 and sigma 2 is greater than sigma. This is our approach. Maybe vice versa also. Maybe sigma 2 is greater than sigma 1 also. Similarly, the third point is sigma yp is the yield point stress of the material or the strength. Strength of the material at yield point. Then as per the Rankine theory or the maximum principal stress theory, if the sigma 1 means sigma 1 is the greater out of these 3 principal stresses. So if sigma 1 maximum principal stress induced into the material due to the application of the load, if it is less than that of the maximum stress induced at yield point, then the design will be safe. I have also written it on the board also. Then as per the Rankine theory, for the safe design, again I am repeating, if the maximum principal stress induced into the material due to the application of the load, if that maximum principal stress is lesser or less than or equal to the stress induced or the yield point strength of the material, then the material will be safe. Point number 1. Point number 2, the maximum principal stress is given by this formula you have studied and solved in your first year in strength of material 1 chapter, and when you had studied the Mohr circle and the principal stress and strain. So I do not want to go into the detail of this formula from the where this formula came. So sigma 1, I am directly coming to that. Sigma 1 equal to sigma x plus sigma y divided by 2 plus root of sigma x minus sigma y divided by 2 whole square plus tau, where tau is your shear stress induced into the material. Now I must come to the next theory of failure. That theory of failure is the maximum shear stress theory, where the material undergoes a shear stress, means shearing load is applied to that. In that condition, how the material will be safer, or the how the machine part will be safer under the application of the shear load or a shear stress induced. The load is in such a way on the material or on the workpiece, the shear stress is induced. How you will make that material safer? For that, a theory was given by the Coulomb. This theory is also known as the Coulomb theory. So Coulomb gave a theory whose name is also maximum shear stress theory. So what does maximum shear stress theory or a Coulomb theory say? Let's see. For the safer design, for a material, for a machine part which may undergo a shear stress or a shear failure, कट जाएगा, shear का मतलब होता है कटना. अगर वो shear failure ना हो या shear stress उसमें जरूरत से ज्यादा इंड्यूस ना हो, जरूरत से ज्यादा का मतलब है it should not cross the limit. So which limit it should not cross? That limit will be told by the Coulomb's theory. Let us see. For the safer design, maximum shear stress induced, maximum shear stress should be less than the maximum shear stress at yield point. The maximum shear stress at yield point means if you are applying a shearing load on a material and the shear stress is getting reduced into the material, you will keep an eye on the material, or you should know know the property of the material, that what is the value of the shear strength of the material at the yield point. Let it be the shear strength of the material at the yield point is 100 MPa, 100 megapascal. So we can say that the maximum shear stress induced should be less than that of the 100 MPa. So this is point number 1. Point number 2, for the two-dimensional system is the two principal stresses are applicable, sigma 1 and sigma 2. So in case of the two-dimensional system, sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2, this is known as the shear stress induced. Sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2. So this value gives you the shear stress induced. This value should be less than that of the you can say shear strength of the material at yield. Where shear strength of the material at the yield point can also be given as shear strength of the material at yield point can also be given as the yield point strength divided by. In other words, we can also understand that the shear strength of the material is just half. Shear strength of the material is just half than that of the yield point strength of the same material. So this point is to be noted. So we should be very much careful while designing a machine part under shear load, because the material strength under shear load is just half as compared to the yield point strength. So moreover, we can also write it as sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2 less than equal to, so sigma yp divided by 2. From 2 to 2 cancel, so sigma 1 minus sigma 2 less than equal to sigma yp. So we can write this equation that way. So this way we have been successful in understanding the theory of failure. Two theories of failure we have studied, the maximum principal stress theory and maximum shear stress theory. Moreover, we have also understood the stress strain diagram. So in our next session we will be studying the other three theories of failure for designing a machine part. Thank you very much.